In this episode of Restore It, I'm going to finish off the last of the welding on the Mercedes W123. The two spots left are the two bottom corners of the windscreen. Like the rear windscreen, this wasn't in the original plans, but is definitely something you can't leave to get worse. I'm going to start on the left hand side by removing the surrounding paint and the surface rust. As you can see, it's quite the mess. There's an old repair patch on the right, but that's actually still well attached. It's the bit next to it that's the problem. I'm going to continue grinding and cutting rust out until I can start to make sense of this. Before I get too stuck in, I just have a very quick and important word from our sponsor, Get Roman. As we all know, preparation is the key ingredient in having the confidence that our cars aren't going to let us down when we need them most. Whether you've been in a relationship for years or are just getting started, having the confidence that comes from preparation means you're free to enjoy the moment when the moment comes. Even though you may feel far from ordinary, the truth is that ED is a very common thing. The statistics show that 52% of men aged 40 to 70 experience some form of erectile dysfunction. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing healthcare, all from the comfort and privacy of your own home. Roman's system is completely confidential and discreet, and getting started is super easy. Just go to getroman.com/restore and complete an online visit. And if medication is appropriate, a US licensed healthcare professional will work with you to find the best treatment plan, which ships to you with free 2-day shipping. Make sure you're ready and have the confidence and control this spring with Get Roman. Just click the link in the description or go to getroman.com/restore it today, and if prescribed, get $15 off your first month of ED treatment. Big thanks to Get Roman as always. Let's get back to it. So the only way I can see myself making sense of this is to remove all of the surface rust, find the real rust and cut it back to good metal. I just don't feel like I can make the piece first in this case, but I might be wrong. Right, this is looking much better. I debated removing the old patch, but it's actually in there really well and doesn't seem to be the problem. Before I go any further, I'm going to treat all of the bare metal with a rust converter, which will also help prevent rust in the future. Now it's time to add in some new metal. I'm using 18 gauge or 1.2mm steel for all of these repairs. When I first started out I was using 0.8 to 1mm and it was just a bit of a nightmare. I'm spraying it with U-POLD weld through primer because obviously I can weld through it, but also it provides good protection from flash rusting for now. With the top piece roughly to size, I can make the bottom one out of cardboard, then metal, and then weld the two together on the car to make sure the angle is just right. This sort of thing takes me longer than it would do for a professional, so I usually find myself working through lunch and dinner time. Thankfully, John Paul's Pizzeria comes to my rescue with some of the best pizza I've ever had. Not a sponsor, I bloody wish it was, but just a big thanks to a friend for helping me get through this rusty nightmare. Honestly, it's some of the best pizza I've ever had. So with the angle in the bag, I can finish the welding on the table away from the car. With the welds ground down, I can now give it a test fit, protect the back of it and weld it in. I'm using 60 grit sanding belts on the finger sander to grind down my excessively high welds, as to not thin down the surrounding metal as well. The 1.2mm steel also helps with that as well. Up next, I can mark and cut the excess metal from both ends. Now the top and bottom lips line up, I can drill through it to attach it to the inner lip with my favourite welds, plug welds. Sadly, plug welds are my best welds. It's a shame that only around 1% of the welding is plug welds, but at least I have these three. I can now grind them down and protect the new pieces with primer. Off camera, I spent far too long making a piece to fit into this weird shaped hole that I've created for myself. Luckily, I got there in the end and ended up with this. It's not perfect, but with a bit of tapping, I think it will fit nicely. I'm going to tack it in and make some adjustments as I go. As you can see, there's not a big enough gap around the outside of it, especially at the top, so I'm going to use a small cutting disc to just widen that gap so I can get the weld in there. Now I can weld the rest of it in, knowing I'm going to get good penetration all round. With that firmly in place, I can now grind the welds back and it should look a lot better. And it's in. Not perfect, but thankfully all of this lies beneath the thick layer of filler that seems to cover this entire car, and so will be hidden before it's painted. I can now give it a final coat of protection and move on to the right hand side. This side doesn't look as bad as the left, but we'll soon find out once I start poking around. Straight away I can see another patch. This one was probably done at the same time as the other one. The more I poke around, the worse it gets. I've decided for this side that I'm going to remove this patch and redo the whole area. At this point, as an amateur, I'm thinking shit, this is just getting worse. But I can't stop now, so I'm going to carry on removing as much rust as there is and just see where I end up. With those cuts made and good metal on the other side of them, I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident about this. So now I can already picture the piece I need to make, it's just a matter of making it. Whilst I think about that some more, I'm going to clean up the entire area and treat it with a rust converter. So this is part of the piece that I need to make. Because I'm new to this, filming myself make this piece feels impossible because it's done in a very trial and error sort of way, which makes it very hard to edit in a timely fashion. So instead, I'm going to show you it at different intervals of its creation. With that done, I can clean the area and prepare it for welding. The area is now looking a lot better and the new piece seems to fit quite nicely. I sprayed the rear side of it with primer and lined it up on the body for tacking. With the first few tacks in and the piece lined up on all angles, I can now slowly but surely weld in the rest of it, making sure it stays cool throughout. I didn't realise it, but my gas had started to run low, which is why the welds are getting worse. I'm going to grind these back and turn up the gas before I finish it off. This is future Steve here, watching this back as I edit it. I've only just noticed that the bottom lip where the windscreen sits isn't right and needs to be reshaped. I don't notice this for a little while, so bear with me, I do get there in the end. I'm making good progress, but there's still a few bits left to do on this, like flattening the welds in this corner and adding a bit more material to complete the weird shaped hole. With all of that now ground down and looking good, I can protect it with primer and focus on the upper section. My camera dies on me, so here's how that turned out. It's now just a case of grinding this down and trimming the top. As I'm finishing up, I notice that the angle on the bottom lip isn't quite right. So what I'm going to do is reshape it and re-weld it to make sure everything sits below the filler line. With that done, I'm now feeling much better about reinstalling the windscreen. I need to drill a hole in the piece I just added, but before I do, I'm going to repair the damage I did to the door earlier on. With that sorted, I can now punch and drill the hole to finish the welding side of things. And there we go. Here's a quick before and after of both sides, which is always nice to see. The next job for the Mercedes is a full respray and the preparation that comes with it. Both of those things should make up the next episode, so join me then to see this thing one step closer to being finished. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.